Thank you, Mona, um, and welcome everybody. Um, it's a great pleasure to be here today. This would be our second webinar in the series, which is developing very nicely. So yeah, welcome everyone, and excuse me. Uh, Thank you, SciTech, and maybe just to quickly introduce the team here. My name's Grant Broomhall. I'm the Managing Director of Far South Networks. I'll be giving you a short intro and really just also introducing the team. We have with me here Clint Jansen. He's our channel manager. And going forward, I'd like to think you get to know both Clint and Andrew pretty well in the months and years to come. We also have Andrew Harrison. He's our technical manager. Andrew will be doing a little bit more of a technical review as an unpacking exercise as to what you get from a Far South 3CX appliance. So as I said, we've done this a little bit in more detail, introducing the company, our background, where we hail from. And rather than go through that again with perhaps many of you that have been here before, I thought maybe I'll just touch this time on Far South as in the name, where we come from. Obviously, you've probably picked up we're a South African original equipment manufacturer. And in fact, we actually hail from Cape Town on the very bottom of the African continent. So there's an element of being in the far south. And in fact, we're even a little bit even further south in the Cape Town area. So there sprung the name Far South Networks. And as you can imagine, we have a lot of sea around us. And from our early days, we could actually spot a lighthouse on the horizon. So when we were coming up with our logo, we saw the lighthouse as, which was probably one of man's earliest communication beacons. Every lighthouse has a unique light spin, so that the ancient mariners would know on the map where they are roughly before they went cruising into the rocks and the shoreline, which Cape Town has a very hazardous sea. Cape of Storms, we were once called. So the lighthouse for us became our emblem in terms of being a light, a beacon, a clear light shining in terms of communications, and a new 14 years ago now entry into the market. Then I guess with Wanderbox, for many years our product range was, and you'll still see our enterprise range is Comex, but for many years the Comex range spanned our products. And more recently, in the last 4 years, we looked at creating, and when we launched the sort of more small office, home office, small to medium business solution, we were looking for a new name for that market. Specifically at the time, what was very new was all the unified communication tools, all the mobility services that were really more for enterprises and were very, very urgently needed for small businesses. And so thus to wander around, to be agile or mobile, but yet still be a service in a box. And so the Wanderbox was born. Yet still, as you'll see in the time ahead, we've got Wi-Fi, we've got LTE. These boxes still have telco interfaces. You put analog and ISDN. So commercially, the product had to be, as you'll see with Wanderbox as it is now, competitive for the small office, but still retain the design and the quality of manufacture that Far South has become well known for. And in fact, it now still retains its commonality across the complete product line. What you'll see today from Andrew in the unpacking is common to our enterprise range. It's the same software image, which means your training, whether it's sales or technical on our products, is identical across our product range. The service and support you offer in keeping your customers in service on our Wanderboxes, and our larger products is all identical. But importantly, we're also focusing now on the 3CX solution. This is 3CX in a box, and we are one of the few certified OEMs to provide you with a 3CX solution installed natively in our CPEs, with all the support of the peripheral interfaces to make it a complete solution. So enough from me. Why are you here today? And today, getting to today's agenda is, let's get to unpacking the Wanderbox and show you how quick and easy it is to get going. So at this point, I'd love to hand you over to Andrew Harrison.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Andrew. I'm the technical manager here at Far South, and today I'll be unboxing a Wanderbox Micro for you and just showing you the basic setup and how easy it is to install the device and get it up and running. So let me share with you my camera. And you can see over here, I have let me see if I can turn off this camera in the top corner. There we go. You can see I have a brand new Wanderbox Micro that is boxed over here. Let me open it up and show you what's inside so we can take a look. So if I open it up, you can see firstly that there's a nice solid foam insert. It's definitely shipped or packaged to be shipped. And once I remove the box, inside I can find a getting started guide, my Wanderbox Micro, and a power supply. I'm going to focus on the Micro in particular over here. Let me just get it out of its packaging. All right. So here we have the Wanderbox Micro device. As you can see, it's nice and small, fits in my hand. And on the one panel, I have a USB 2.0 USB port, a switch to reboot the device, a switch to power off the device, and some status LEDs. On the reverse panel, I have two LAN ports for WAN and LAN communication, as well as a power supply. I'm going to plug this into my network now and switch over to my browser so that we can start with the configuration. Oops. All right, at this point, we just need to wait for the device to boot quickly, make sure that it's available on the network. And when it is, I will be able to access the device on its IP address. Now, the interface I'm going to be accessing is called the Comma UI. Let's see if my device is booted just yet. There we go. This is the Comma UI interface, from which I can configure anything that is not telephony related. Any features that are not related to the 3CX telephony features. So in my Comma UI, the first thing I'm going to do is to actually activate the 3CX license, because when we ship, we don't ship with a license activated, because obviously the device is going to be spending some time in transit and then potentially in stores. And we don't want to consume any of that license time when the device is not actually on site at your customer's premises. So I first need to enable 3CX license. And to do that, I log into the Comma UI at port 8888. And I navigate down to the 3CX tools menu. And then I'm going to enable the 3CX web config tool. This is going to enable the regular 3CX web config tool, with which I'm sure or any of you who are familiar with 3CX will be familiar, and I'll find that at port 5015. So if I navigate to the exact same IP address, 110, then to port 5015, and from here, I have the ability to configure my 3CX device. So the first thing I need is my license key, which I'm quickly going to retrieve as I have it on hand, and copy and paste that license. No, Sorry, I copied the incorrect thing. There we go. And then we'd select next. At this point, I'm going to set the admin credentials for the user that's going to log into the device and configure all of your services, through the regular administrator's interface. I'm going to choose the name admin, set a password. And next. Ooh, my passwords do not match. There we go. So now the 3CX has identified my public IP address. I am happy with that. That is my public IP. If I were configuring this in my office and going to be moving to another site at a later stage, then I could manually configure my IP address to whatever the site's public IP address is going to be. At this point, I get to choose which ports I would like to use for HTTP, HTTPS, and SIP traffic. I'm going to leave them as defaults. You could also switch to port 443 for HTTP and port 80 for, 443 for HTTPS and port 80 for HTTP. At this point, I do not have an FQDN within my networking environment. This would be if I wanted to give a host name to the device, such as local PBX, and then it would be identified by that URL rather than by the IP address internally. No, I do not. How are you? Okay. At this point, we're waiting for 3CX FQDN to be registered. I'm going to move this across to my other screen, and I'd like to quickly talk you through what features we have available on this Comma UI while I wait for the fully qualified domain name to be created on 3CX side. So when you log into the Comma UI, the primary use that you will get out of the Comma UI is to configure network interfaces. So if I go to network configuration, you can see I'm able to view my interfaces, configure my interfaces, and then for some troubleshooting, I can view all of my IP addresses and all of my IP routes. If I configure an interface, I have the choice between a DHCP client and also a static IP address. At this point, the DHCP server configuration is still to be finalized, but definitely on its way, and the same with a VLAN configuration. These devices will soon support VLAN. In addition, for troubleshooting, it's nice to be able to view the IP routes that are currently active on the device. Outside of networking, I have the ability to manage my software. If I wanted to install updates or check for updates, I could do it through this interface. This is exclusively updates that are not 3CX. I'd also be able to install 3CX updates through the 3CX GUI, but for any third-party applications or non-3CX related software, that can be managed through the Comma UI interface. If I have a look at my system information, that's going to show me an accumulation of all the hardware and software specifications on the device, which can also be particularly useful when communicating with us regarding support. So you can see this gives me my serial number, my SKU, and a few details about which versions of software is currently installed on this device. Finally, I'm able to reboot the device, and I can view the syslog of the device as well through this interface. Okay, at this point, my FQDN has been registered, and I can now proceed with the configuration of my PBX. The first thing I need to do is select the length of my extensions, how many digits an extension number comprises. This is important because this is the one feature I'm configuring now that cannot be changed at a later stage. If I want to change my admin email address or my operator extension, that's all possible. But if I would like to change from extensions being 3 digits in length to 4 digits in length, that can only be done upon installation. So just be sure to think it through and make sure you choose a digit length that will provide sufficient extensions for all of the users. I usually go with 4 digits. My admin email, I'm going to enter my own email, andrew@farsoutnet.com. The person configured as the admin is going to receive all sorts of notices regarding this device. For instance, if software updates are available, if a license is about to expire, or if services are unreachable, the admin will receive an email. Further, any backups that are taken on the device will also be emailed to the admin. Now I need to select my country, my time zone, and my E164 dialing. This is listed alphabetically, but it is done so on continents. So just make sure when you have a look that you are on the correct continent in order to choose the country you're looking for. And then I like to choose Central African time as my time for my device. At this point, I'm just going to configure an operator extension. The operator extension is generally used as a default inbound route. If a call arrives for which there is no other inbound route created, the operator will receive the call. The call will be directed to the operator. And finally, I'm going to select Africa as the zones to which I'm allowed to place calls. This, by default, just allows calls only to be placed to African destinations. At a later stage, I can enable further destinations if I'd like to. Now I just need to find where, there we go. Okay, I'd like to quickly take this opportunity to show you a few of our other Wanderbox ranges. So over here, I have a Wanderbox Uno device. This is a PBX supporting up to 32 simultaneous calls and 50 users. You can see this is a metal box, so it's a lot more sturdy than the micro range. And on my back panel, you can see I have capabilities to connect to 2 LAN interfaces, 2 USB 2.0 USB ports, and also an antenna for Wi-Fi. The lower of these 2 USB ports can also act as a COM port, so you can connect to the device without it being available on a network. In addition, a Wanderbox Uno can support up to 4 telephony ports, either analog or a primary rate ISDN port on these devices. And these 4 telephony ports could be analog FXS to support handsets, or analog FXO to support trunks. I also have a Wanderbox Duo available. And this Wanderbox Duo is similar to a Wanderbox Uno in that it contains the same internals. However, a Wanderbox Duo is able to support 2 telephony cards, so up to 8 analog telephony ports, or a single or a double primary rate ISDN port. Additionally, the Wanderbox Duo also has Wi-Fi capabilities and 2 USB 2.0 ports, with, again, the lower of these 2 ports acts as a COM port, and so can allow you to connect to the device without being connected or available on the network. All right, let's get back to my browser, as this PBX is nearly finished. Stop my presentation. And we can see my PBX is nearly complete with the installation. And when it is, I'll be able to log into the device and start with configuring new extensions, trunks, inbound routes, and so on.
Andrew, just bring up your presentation screen, please. We can't see it.
Ah, fantastic. Thank you. There we go. And now you can see that this device is fully installed, and I'm able to reach the device on it's either a local IP or a public IP. And if I go to port 5000, which we'd configured for HTTP, I'm able to log into the device as the admin user that I had configured earlier. Once I've logged in, immediately I'm presented with a 3CX pop-up showing me a QR code. If I were to scan this with my phone, it would help me to locate the 3CX app in either the App Store or on Google Play. And this would allow me as a user to register my extension for unified communications through my mobile phone. You can see that once I've logged on, if I get to my users, the user that's configured, in a second, is the operator user that I had configured. And once I open that user, I'm also given a QR code which I could scan to provision my phone to act as this extension. Once I've added users, I'm also able to select particular users and send a welcome email so that that QR code will be sent directly to a user who can then scan it with their own phone, and their mobile application will be provisioned to act as their extension. Before I hand you back to Clint, I'd just like to show you how our analog or ISDN telephony cards or ports would be added to these systems. Under the SIP trunks, if you select Add Gateway and select Far South, you then have a choice of our gateway devices. These devices will all provide telephony ports to act as trunks, so either primary rate ISDN or analog FXO ports. If I select Advanced and then FXS DECT, I'm able to add a gateway of Far South gateway featuring FXS ports to support analog handsets. That's pretty much what I would like to show you. So at that point, I'd like to hand you back to Clint.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Andrew, for that presentation. It's wonderful to see that all our devices basically in one place. Well, not all of them, but just the Wanderbox range. And I want to take you guys through now just today's topics that I'm going to discuss with a combination of myself, Grant, and Andrew. I'm the channel manager, as Grant said. So I basically look after the resellers. I look after the sales side of things, and then also oversee a bit of the technical as well. So what I want to take you through is the Far South 3CX PBX features, focusing on the Wanderbox range, and then a bit about the Wanderbox mechanicals. What makes that box tick? We've seen the pictures and everything. We've seen the nice illustration that Andrew has brought across for us with regards to that. But we need to see exactly what it comprises of. So we'll get to see that more in the Wanderbox mechanicals. Then we have a bit of Q&A. So if you guys don't mind, you're more than welcome to punch in your questions and things in the chat box. We will address them as soon as we're done with the presentation. And I promise you, even if we have to be here till tonight, it's fine. We will address all your questions as quickly as we can. Okay, perfect. Let's carry on with the presentation. So basically, we're going to be starting with the Far South 3CX PBX features. Okay, so the hardware benefits with regards to our Wanderbox range and our whole full range for that matter, but we're focusing on the Wanderboxes now. So it's a great solution for the small businesses as well as your large businesses as well. The telecoms ports that Andrew has shown you on the devices. So we support the analog ports as well as the ISDN ports on those devices. So it doesn't matter how small, you've seen it fit literally in Andrew's hand, predominantly the micro as well as the Uno, Wanderbox Uno as well, fits quite nicely in your hand. But don't be fooled by the small size of the PBX. In the olden days, we obviously had, olden days, I'm talking like I'm quite old. But anyway, we had quite a big PBX. The legacy PBXs in those days was quite huge. So it's quite strange for people nowadays to see smaller PBXs. But that doesn't mean that we can't supply you guys with any analog and ISDN connectivity as far as our Wanderbox range is concerned. We also have equally broadband connectivity, so IP connectivity. So if you want your SIP trunks to be connected onto the PBX, by all means we can do that, and it's integrated within 3CX and given to you in that way. What is also wonderful is to see the integration of our PBX systems within 3CX, and we'll discuss that a bit later. Handsets, yes, there's a variety of handsets. If you do not know, 3CX basically supports a wide range of handsets as far as IP handsets is concerned. But with the help of our devices, we are able to now offer you guys that connectivity that's so much needed on the analog side. So if we're looking at your hotel deployments, your mining deployments, where they basically want to keep those analog handsets, you can do so with regards to our PBX ranges. So reliable on-premise device. So this is quite important, because if you think about it, if you're going to have a customer on a hosted deployment, you always have to connect off-site to another PBX that also takes a bit of bandwidth with regards to your connectivity to 3CX. So when you have an on-premise device, 3CX is built into each one of our PBXs at the end of the day. And that allows for an easy connectivity, seamless connectivity to that 3CX deployment. And this allows the customer not to spend huge amounts of money, first of all, and also not huge amounts of bandwidth with regards to connecting to 3CX. Everything comes within our devices. Resilience, quite important. We face harsh environments. I don't know about some places in the rest of the world. Basically, they have their own harsh environments that they have to compete with. We in South Africa also have harsh summers, winters. We basically have, everybody says, about 4 seasons in one day here in South Africa. So that's why we designed the PBX range to be very resilient against those harsh environments. You'll feel that it's nice and cool to the touch when that PBX is running even at full capacity. So we basically taking care of you and your customer to make sure that you guys get the full value and the full strength with regards to our product. So external LTE routers, so you can connect your external LTE router basically to our PBX systems, and that offers you a variety of whether you're wanting to use that as a secondary, like we can chat about option number 7, redundancy, to if you're using fiber connectivity as your primary connectivity on the Wanderbox range, or if you're using LTE as your primary, or LTE as your redundant connection. Your redundant connection can also be your telecoms ports, be it analog or ISDN as well. And then survivability. If you don't know about 3CX high availability option, on the Enterprise Edition package, you have an active and a passive side to one license. So you just purchase one license on 3CX on the enterprise side, and you can take 2 devices, and those 2 devices will be in sync with each other. So if one device goes down, within a range of about 6 minutes, that other device that's in a passive mode will move into place and happily take over all the functionality with regards to that customer's premises. So there, the survivability, the high availability from 3CX basically kicks in. So let's look at Far South Networks has got you covered as far as service and support. We take care of everything so that you don't have to. I find that is very important in today's day and age, when electronics constantly gets updated, constantly maybe gives issues and those kind of things. It makes you pull your hair out. At the end of the day, we are the regional equipment manufacturer. So we got the embedded platform that's serviced by us. So we take care of the device on your behalf. We also have, like Andrew has shown you also on the Comma UI side, we have our own software ecosystem where we manage the updates. We manage the updates with regards to 3CX into the device as well. And the support we offer is from Far South Networks. So let me go more into the product maintenance side. The online sales training is available with regards to our products. You can happily speak to Cytec, to Mona and all the team on Cytec side, where they'll introduce you to the online sales training free of charge, no cost involved. Equally, 3CX offers you free online technical training. And then we also, alongside with Cytec, offer you further technical training with regards to our devices. We also offer a product service RMA, so the standard RMA procedure when you're booking in the device, and we offer extended warranties on each one of our devices as well. So let's look at the product range. This is the exciting bit. So what you actually get when you're looking at the Wanderbox range, okay? So you get a gateway collection. So the gateway collection is available on the Wanderbox range, and this offers security, being blacklisting, firewall router that's full-fledged inside the device as well, telecoms connectivity, where it comes to ISDN or PSTN connectivity, so analog and ISDN connectivity. So you integrating basically with your PRI, your basic rate ISDN or your primary rate ISDN, your voice over IP connectivity via SIP, via Ethernet connection, or LTE, which we'll look at in the next slide, or Wi-Fi connectivity. We also offer a flexible call routing option within the device that makes your inbound and outbound call routing a lot easier and more manageable for your engineers. So let's look at the gateway. This is a very exciting part of the gateway side, where we take in the Wanderbox and we basically integrated LTE with regards to our gateway product. So our gateway product, if you think of instant fiber-like connectivity, you basically the closest that you can get is LTE advanced. We use category 6 modems, and this is fitted with quality of service, so QoS, with regards to those devices. Enhanced security gives you firewall with blacklisting, as we discovered before. And then also our LTE, as you can see represented in this Wanderbox Duo, we have these huge antennas, basically, that's whip antennas, which is supplied with each and every one of our gateways. That's to give you the proper connectivity to your LTE network, so that we can basically supply on that range. SIM card modules, the bottom picture basically indicates to you that there's 2 SIM card modules within the Wanderbox Duo that we are able to offer, and that's integrated right into the device itself. So you may ask, why do we actually do that? Why did we actually integrate this with our devices, with our gateways? And I'm glad that you asked that question, because that's a brilliant question that you asked. So basically, as I've said there, it's cost saving on external routers. So a lot of us basically are looking at different routers to do our LTE connectivity. But what better device that you can use is a gateway, basically with a built-in LTE modem, so that you can service that with regards to your customers. So that's our gateway modules. Let's move over to our Wanderbox 3CX approved hardware products. Okay, so the top row indicates which models there are. As Andrew said, there's a Wanderbox Micro, there's a Wanderbox Uno, and the Wanderbox Duo. We're going to basically, I'm going to sum it up very quickly in a nutshell. Simultaneous calls and users maximum. Each one of them in the Wanderbox range goes up to 32 simultaneous calls and up to 50 users maximum on that device. Okay, Andrew has already gone through a bit of the differences between them, but I'll leave the mechanical side of those slides for Andrew just to define that a bit more for you, so that you can understand more about the Wanderbox range. The connectivity side, on the Wanderbox Micro, we have Ethernet connectivity, so that's voice over IP only with regards to those that device. Ethernet connectivity on the Wanderbox Uno, together with Wi-Fi, analog, FXO, FXS ports, PRI connectivity is all welcome on the Wanderbox Uno, as well as on the Wanderbox Duo. We basically have SIP connectivity as well as Wi-Fi connectivity on those devices as well. So this is quite important to note that Far South has 3CX approved hardware products. And if you need this with regards to any of your customers, or you want to see this, basically, we do have this on hand. It's available via our website to prove to you that we are serious about our product, and our product is definitely endorsed through 3CX. Now I'd like to hand over to Grant, who's going to go through these little practical sample packages, just to give you guys an idea of what you can do in the real life of the Wanderbox, and how you can deploy that onto different sites. Thanks, Grant.
Thanks, Clint. Yeah, I mean, I guess these are rather self-evident. As you picked up already, with the Wanderbox Micro, it's an IP-only system. So, you know, a simple deployment here, really represented as the the box, one of its Ethernet ports connected to a router. It would be a fiber or LTE router, giving you broadband connectivity for all your SIP trunks. And on the local LAN side, another Ethernet port that's there simply to connect to, in this case, the simplest installation would be to use a decked, one or two decked base stations with decked handsets positioned on the user's desks, and obviously augmented very actively there with the mobile clients and the web clients that the users can interact, chat, get their directory, and make calls from within the office on their devices or outside the office. So that would be the simplest, most entry-level commercial solution we could see for up to, again, 50 users on a Wanderbox Micro. Thanks. Next slide. And obviously this would be your more traditional office where you would have a range, as Clint's pointed out, your SNOM, Poly, Yealink, Grandstream, Fanville, all those IP handsets which are auto-provisioned from the 3CX PBX can be done so in a more traditional office type solution represented by this picture, where you would have maybe an advanced switchboard phone, one or two executive phones, and general, entry-level phones for general staff. Again, IP for the Wanderbox Micro, in this case, an IP-only environment. All you would need to do here is to add your 3CX license to suit the core concurrency of the customer. And last but not least, I guess, more what would be called a hybrid type solution. So now, where you would have a Wanderbox Uno or Wanderbox Duo with the telephony ports, that hardware installed in the Wanderbox. In this case, you've got your traditional IP interfaces on the lower end of the picture, your IP phones and your SIP trunks. But now, if the hardware supports it, and you have it in your customer's unit, you can connect to your telco, your PSTN analog lines via your FXO ports on the box, or even primary rate ISDN lines via your PRI interface in the box. And equally, as also mentioned, if the customer has existing infrastructure, those analog handsets, those old SLTs, as we would call them here, running on Cat3 cable, you can plug those directly, phones or fax machines, into the Wanderbox and reuse existing infrastructure. And that brings it to the end, but of the packages. But I guess just something to mention there is obviously the Teams support. Version 18 of 3CX, everyone's extremely excited to be able to connect their Teams, use their Teams environment as an extension to the 3CX PBX, which would naturally appear in all those pictures once version 18 is released. And thank you. For the mechanical final review, I'll pass back to Andrew.
Thank you, Grant. Okay, so on the mechanicals, I'm quickly going to discuss the hardware available on each of these devices. So on a Wanderbox Micro, as we've heard from Clint and Grant, a Wanderbox Micro is IP only. So this is only going to connect via one of the two LAN ports. There is no support for internal telephony cards for analog or ISDN telephony. We have two LAN ports, a 5-volt power supply input, a switch to reboot the box, a switch to power off the box, the USB 2.0 USB port, and then finally just an LED status indicator which flashes blue once the device is booted. If we look at the Wanderbox Uno, Sorry, I jumped the gun. On an SBC, we run a Wanderbox Micro that also acts as an SBC, where an SBC does not work as a PBX, but allows you to configure remote handsets to register to your PBX. So the Wanderbox Micro hardware is identical, whether a PBX or an SBC, and you would then connect with your LAN port to the internet and facilitate the connection of up to 30 SIP handsets to connect remotely through the SBC. So if your SBC is able to see your PBX on the internet, then your phones connected to the SBC will be able to register to the PBX. If you have more than 30 endpoints in a remote location, you need to deploy multiple SBCs. So there's a limit of 30 endpoints per SBC. And yeah, as I'd said, the SBC hardware is identical. So we've got a LAN port. Ooh, there is one exception. On a Wanderbox Micro, 2 LAN ports are available. On a Wanderbox SBC, only the 1 LAN port. USB 2.0, 16 gigabyte internal storage. And of course, this is licensed through 3CX. Now we can have a look at the Wanderbox Uno. And as I'd said earlier, a Wanderbox Uno supports 1 slot of telephony cards. So we have a modular system in place where all of our cards consume the same footprint so that they can be swapped between devices, so that you can choose which hardware you would like in your device when ordering it. In case that was confusing, they definitely can't be hard swapped. They would be, when the device is ordered or in the factory, we can choose which cards to put into it. We have available a BRI, basic rates ISDN card, which is reserved exclusively for gateways at this point. And then in our analog telephony cards, we have 4 analog ports, either of type FXO to support trunks or FXS to support analog handsets. Now, we do offer a card that is 4 FXO ports, another card that is 4 FXS ports, or a hybrid card that features 2 FXS ports and 2 FXO ports to support 2 trunks and 2 local extensions on analog handsets. We also have what we call an ACM card, which supports primary rate ISDN. And what's nice about our ACM cards is that they also include 2 additional LAN ports. So if you were to have PRI, primary rate ISDN, on your device, then you would automatically get an extra 2 network ports with which to work. Finally, we have LTE routing available on our gateway devices. And we've got a nice picture there showing me the rear view panel of a Wanderbox Uno. And as you can see, we've got 2 LAN ports, provisions for antenna if we're using LTE, provisions for antenna on the Wi-Fi, and 2 USB 2.0 ports, the lower of which acts as a console port. Now, if we look at the Wanderbox Duo, you can see the layout is similar, except it has provisions for a second card. So on an Uno, we can fit 4 analog telephony or 1 PRI port. On a Wanderbox Duo, we could fit 2 cards, so up to 8 analog telephony ports, or 2 PRI. With the Duo, I suppose we could put 4 PRI, but it won't support that many simultaneous calls. So that's not a model that we do. One more thing to mention about the Duo is that the Wanderbox Duo is rack mountable. So you'll see there we have a provision for an earth lug, so that you could earth this device directly to the chassis if you were to put it into a rack with other networking equipment. And I think that brings me to the end of what I would like to discuss on the hardware. So now we'll be taking some questions.
Yeah, I think let's look at the questions. Thanks everybody for whoever put in questions. Let's see. So we got a question about, is the SPC connecting the phones using the tunnel connection? Are the conversations completely encrypted? Andrew, could you perhaps answer that one, or Grant?
Yeah, so that's it's an encrypted tunnel between the SBC and the PBX. So you do have a secure tunnel connection between the SPC on-site and the PBX off-site. Could be a head office or even, a remote data center. The conversations themselves aren't encrypted, but whilst in the tunnel, they are encrypted.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And then the next question is connecting different sites. Does it require a license, or is it fair enough using SPC without paying extra license for the other site?
Yeah, so again, the SPC function is a non-commercial, there's no commercial licensing per se from 3CX perspective for the SPC functionality. So no, there's no extra license required that's commercially with a commercial value.
Perfect. And then I see we've got another, looks like the last question here. For the 3CX SIP truck, would imagine trunk, does it flash green upon selection, or is there a process in order to activate it?
So I'll take this one. I'm not too sure what you mean by upon selection, but definitely there is an indicator to determine whether the trunk is registered or not. So there'll be a green status light when the trunk is registered, and a red status on the device's GUI when the trunk is not registered. Please could you follow up if I have not answered that question?
Perfect. Thank you very much, Andrew. Thanks, Grant, for answering the questions. Anybody have any more questions, anything they would like to know about with regards to our products? Feel free to ask it here, or otherwise head over. As you can see, Cytek's contact info is available there to you guys, and you're more than welcome to address any questions or any advice or any information with regards to any of our products. Please feel free to contact Mona and the team with regards to that. We'll hang around here for a couple of minutes in case there's other questions that wants to be answered. Perfect. If there's no other questions that you guys need to ask from your side, as I said, feel free to contact Cytek for any more information. But thank you very much for attending and helping us along with our presentation. It's really been wonderful to have you guys along for the ride with Far South Networks and Cytek.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Wishing you well.